Well, I mean, before we begin, like, what's the most accurate CIA TV show
Oh, I love this question.
or movie?
Yeah, I love this question.
Well, AJ, you mentioned the agency earlier.
Yeah.
We have people that listen from all over the world. What is the agency, and why can someone just say the agency and they know what you're talking about in the United States?
Got it. The agency is the Central Intelligence Agency. And I will die on that hill that there is only one agency, even in the US government.
Somehow we need to figure out how to like prank an AI. Like, what's the equivalent of putting peanuts into the AI cubicle, right?
Right. That's the type of thing that like ends with the Terminator movies or something like that. That's, I don't know. Hello, welcome to Directionally Correct, a people analytics podcast with Cole and Scotty. The guest today is me, AJ Herrmann.
Hey, Directionally Correct fans. If you're looking to stay connected to the podcast, make sure to subscribe to our Substack newsletter, watch our videos on YouTube, or listen to the podcast on your app of choice. This podcast is dedicated to you to help educate and entertain you on how to effectively do people analytics. All opinions are our own and do not reflect those of any other organization. Well, you came into us, we were talking about office shenanigans. Like, I don't know if you ever had like a cubicle.
Oh, yeah.
But like,
I was in the government for 10 years. I've had cubicles.
Did anybody ever decorate your cubicle? Or has anybody ever thrown a surprise party for you?
Both. Yes. And like, man, what did we used to do? Like, because the decorations are never or weren't all that kind usually. So I've had like packing peanuts dropped all over my cubicle. We used to pass around when I was in the agency, they would pass around this huge life-size Chewbacca, like cardboard cutout. Right. So you have that at your desk. So yeah, I've been part of shenanigans.
I mean, like there's levels to it, right? So the packing peanuts, you got to clean it up, but I mean, that comes with love, right? They're doing it because they love you.
I guess. I mean, we also did it to some people that we didn't love. So I'm not sure that I was,
That's the dirty side.
Yeah. Well, that's what we were actually just talking about before you got here. I'm curious, how do you delineate pranks as love versus pranks like they don't like you? Like, what's the line?
It's hard to find, right? Because I think there are people who are just nuts about pranks, and I find those people infuriating. Right? Like at BCG, there was this terrible prank that always made me mad. If you didn't lock your laptop, you walked away and didn't lock your laptop, somebody would go on your email and email the entire firm from your email with something embarrassing, right? So there used to be these huge emails, and they would do it to very junior people who just started. And it happened to me once, and it took me like, they sent it to the partners of me it was AJ with this stupid idea. And it took me months to like unwind that, to go to the partners and be like, by the way, that wasn't actually me. And I hated it. It was so mean. It was like, a hard place to work to begin with. And I think that was so even if that came from love, I thought that was sort of a crap thing to do to people.
So that's not like a cultural phenomenon, like where anytime someone's laptop is unlocked, they email everybody, or is it like a small group and they would never know that this sort of thing is going on? Like right. I've seen like other companies will have, say you leave your laptop open and like they'll send it to a specific image or something like that. Yeah, everyone knows like, okay, this person goofed.
Yeah. I worked with this company once, and they should have changed it. But they had like these email addresses. One was for like to send in like HR benefits questions and things like that. Right. And the other one was HR all. And so it would just email all of HR. And like once a month, somebody would send in an incredibly embarrassing email about the situation. They're like, I've got this spot on my thigh. I'm not sure if it's cancer. Does our benefits cover this? And it would go to all of HR. I'm like, these poor people. Like, please, like, change this email address.
Oh, yeah, I hate my boss, this sort of thing.
There should be, like, anytime you email an all, like, email group or reply all, there should be, like, a cooling off period, for, like, buying a firearm or something where, like, This email will send in 3 days. Go take a walk around the block, meditate, and then like decide if you want to send. That should just be a built-in safety feature.
This is the AI people are asking for. That's what they need.
right. This is AI that will make the world a better place. Yes.
It was like, you sure about that? You sure about that?
Right. Or like even an insight, like, did you know that 1% of people that email all actually are glad that they did it? You know what I mean? Survey says.
That's fantastic. Well, AJ, you mentioned the agency earlier.
Yeah.
We have people that listen from all over the world. What is the agency, and why can someone just say the agency and they know what you're talking about in the United States?
Got it. The agency is the Central Intelligence Agency. And I will die on that hill that there is only one agency, even in the U.S. government. It's just the agency. So, yeah, I was in CIA for 10 years.
So what did you do there?
So,
can you talk about this?
Sure. Yeah. It's, you know, the whole idea is like specifics. You know, if you do that kind of work, you don't mention places, you don't mention people, you don't mention specific things. But
it's like the mob.
What's that?
It's like the mob.
It's like right. There's I got to go see a man about a horse. Yeah, right. I get that guy with the thing. I did a lot of that guy with the thing in the place over there. Right. No, I was
or maybe I didn't.
Yeah, or maybe I didn't. Right. So, you know, I was an intelligence analyst. I was hired during the height of, you know, counterterrorism and all those things. So I was a counterterrorism analyst. And then, you know, did different accounts. I was able to do a regional account where I focused on a particular part of the world that was going through a lot of upheaval. I was able to do some really cool advanced analytics and methodology that at the time didn't exist anywhere else because, you know, we did such cool assertive things. And then I was able to be a White House briefer. I was a presidential daily briefer.
That's a big deal.
It was awesome. That was my best and toughest job. There's only a handful of those at any time. This was during Obama administration. But there's only maybe like 10 or 12 of them, but we were the ones who got the president's daily briefing and briefed it to the appointees who received that, which was a very small group of people. So that was amazing because it's like every day I would get up at midnight, you know, go into the office, get yesterday's analysis and have to cram for the world's hardest test, I guess is how you'd say it, for hours. And then brief it to, you know, presidential folks, and then take their questions and answer them as best I could. So I did that for a year. That was enough. And then towards the end, I actually taught new analysts and ran some of the training classes that they went through, which was one of my favorite jobs. So yeah, in general terms, that's what I did in the agency. The agency.
Did the analytics ever say there's going to be peace in the Middle East?
You know, we try to be optimistic, but we try to, you know, the truth shall set you free, right? So it's complicated. Let's just put it that way. But you know, it's the world. The world is. It's funny to me, especially when I left. You know, you read the news, you listen to the news, and you're like, man, the world is so much more interesting and diverse information wise than we get in the US. And I do miss that because it's like, you know, you really have to go hunt to find news about what's going on in the world. And there are some good sources, but I don't think we in the US get nearly enough of like, hey, let's teach you about, you know, the conflict over the South China Sea. Between, you know, all those things, or like sub-Saharan Africa, like all the unrest. And, you know, like I just saw on the news today, because I go find it, you know, Ebola is reemerging in the Congo. Like it's, yeah, you know, so stuff like that. You go even like a great newspaper like the Washington Post or New York Times, it's more of like, you know, what did someone tweet today or something like that. That's not news to me.
Justin Bieber, new wife.
right. Like, you know, like Travis, what his name, Kelsey and Taylor Swift. Like,
yeah. God
bless him, but that's not.
That's really interesting anecdote there from someone that did have all the information. You know, as laymen, we're beholden to, you know, New York Times or, you know, whatever. Who does have? I mean, it's probably an amalgamation of sources, but who are your trusted sources? Like BBC, Al Jazeera.
Yeah, BBC is really good. Al Jazeera is good. They have a perspective also that you need to take into account, right? I would say that probably the best is The Economist.
Interesting.
That magazine, it's English. And they come at it from a business perspective, but they cover the entire world, and you learn a lot about what makes a country tick by learning about its economics and business and things like that. So I'd say, all in all, the best that I would recommend is The Economist.
Yeah, we've definitely covered some of The Economist wacky charts over the years on the podcast. That's good to know. We're not in the wrong place. Yeah. I will say I've one silly question for you about the CIA. You have to bear with me. So I was talking with a friend of mine earlier today who had some kind of like connections with that community, and I asked him a question. I was like, so if I wanted to suss out of a guest, if they were a spy, what would I ask them? And they gave me this like really long, like really good freaking question. And I left it thinking, I'm not asking AJ this question, but I know now my friend is a spy. And so the question I have for you is, AJ, I'm going to ask you what I asked him. How would you, if you wanted to figure out someone was a spy from another country, what would you ask them?
From another country?
Or or from our country or whatever.
No, double agent.
Happy hour. Right. So I wouldn't ask them questions. I thought somebody might be a foreign intelligence officer is how you would say it, right? They're in the US, they're trying to pump me from information or recruit or something like that. It's more about how they would interact with me that I would pick up on instead of direct questions. And I would just note there is tradecraft. That's the word that we would use, tradecraft, that they would try to use to get me talking. Because what intelligence officers of any kind are really good at is not answering questions, right? They are very good at knowing human conditions and sort of playing upon humans' like predilection to talk about themselves. People love talking about themselves. So if I ever, when I was in, got like penetrating questions, there's a lot of tricks, tradecraft, to pivot back to, my wife had a very interesting job in the government. It wasn't intelligence, but whenever she was next to me, I'd say, I do sort of political analysis. It's sort of boring, but you really need to talk to my wife about what she's doing, right? And it's just like you take a glancing blow of the question and you pare it away. So anyone that does that and is really, really good at it, that's something. But also, there's elicitation techniques that I won't talk too much about in specifics. But there are things that the way that they would talk to me and whatever, and the sort of topics that they were interested in, that I would say, I get a little bit of tummy rumbles right now. That's what I would say.
Like they approach you at the Washington Mall and they demand you talk into their bow tie, and
right. Or they say something provocative, and I have no context for meeting this person. Like, I'm at a kid's birthday party, and someone immediately wants to talk to me about, the Middle East. I'm like, usually somebody starts with the weather, or like how bad the Browns are, not, what do you think their strategy? I wonder what their strategy is,
Huh.
Yeah, that's well, I am curious. So how does one go? Well, I think one of the things we talked about prepping for this is when you do work for the agency, you get a set of skill set.
Yeah.
And you can apply that in a variety of contexts. Obviously, you were able to take that and apply it, working at Nestle, BCG, Cleveland Clinic, a few places, and getting into kind of the workforce planning, people analytics space.
Yeah.
What were those skills, and what transferred, and how did that equip you for moving into the private sector?
Yeah, good question, because it has a through line, but it's not easy to see on a LinkedIn flow,
Yeah.
The most valuable thing, pretty much everything that I do every day professionally, is based on what I learned in the agency, learning analytic tradecraft. And the foundation of that, I would say, is to understand and acknowledge that your brain is constantly tricking you, right? You have a series of cognitive biases. No matter how smart you are, no matter how focused you are, your brain has evolutionary stuff going on that's going to trip you up and you'll never see it. It's completely unconscious bias, right? So the agency is exceptional at training people to be constantly aware of, why do I think that? What's making me jump to that conclusion? The thing that somebody just told me, is it a fact or is it an assumption, right? Or is it sort of the way that they said that? Do they have a motivation, right? It's all these things, because there are something like 35 cognitive biases that people show every day, right? Mirror imaging bias, confirmation bias, like, oh, you could go on and on and on. So I think what I was able to do, and I happen to think that agency analysts are some of the most valuable professionals in the world because of that, because they can ingest a stupid amount of conflicting information that from sources of information that have to be consistently, like questioned. And they can put that together and say, this is what's happening. This is probably what's going to happen next. And this is how we could make the most use of that. So when I left the agency and went into consulting at a fantastic, top firm, BCG, I brought a lot of that with me, because still, when you're working at the pace that BCG works at in terms of producing insights, producing content, producing whatever, you blast through things. And I'm like, whoa, you don't know that that's true. And everything that you're doing based on it is, you're going to work for 2 weeks based on something that you just skipped over, that if it's wrong, everything else you do from there is wrong. And so I've taken that everywhere. And it's not, it doesn't slow you down if you know how to do it in the moment. So for example, I did at Nestle, at the clinic, my team at the clinic, we would just consistently say, is that a fact or is that an assumption? Because an assumption is just something you take to be true without any evidence. You can't live your life without making assumptions. I have a question about that.
Yeah. Like, because a lot of times I'll be talking to somebody and they'll put forward one of their assumptions as if it's a fact.
Yeah.
How do you suss out those two things?
Yeah. So the definition is, a fact has evidence. I can prove it. I can see it. I can observe it. I can replicate it, whatever it is. An assumption is something that you take to be a fact and you move on, right? And you can't find evidence for it because you just can't. It doesn't exist. And the idea of, like identifying assumptions is not to eliminate assumptions. It's to say, all right, can I prove this assumption? Then if you can prove it, it's a fact. It's no longer an assumption. But if you can't prove it, then you say to yourself, how much weight am I placing upon this assumption?
Yeah.
Right? And so I would call that, if it's a lot, I would call it a key assumption. So what you have to do is to like call it out, label it, like that is a key assumption. So if anything happens or we learn anything that questions that assumption, we then have to also revisit everything that we built on top of it. So if you, to your point, your question, Cole, if someone says, yes, it's an assumption and here I go. If they never keep an eye on that assumption, that is how huge mistakes are made. And I think this is that you could go in the public realm and find all sorts of business failures, government failures, intelligence failures that were based upon an assumption that at the time seemed good, then later on could have been proven wrong, but they never went back and fixed it or even knew that their assumption was such a big deal.
The social network has implications here as well. It's one thing to have your own biases and this sort of thing, but like once you add to the social component, it becomes like really dangerous. So like AJ tells Cole some sort of assumption, Cole tells me, then I tell AJ. All of a sudden, like without that fact, assumption, whatever, moving outside of our network, it's reinforced to you as, okay, now we got outside information confirming what I said, despite the fact it's your own thoughts.
There's a great, not a great, but a very relevant example of, do you remember the DC sniper? This was probably 2002, 2003.
Out of the trunk of his car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to school in DC at the time. I was in college at GW, and there's been all sorts of case studies after that, because do you remember that the original like call out, like be on the lookout, was for a windowless white van? They said we think he's working from a windowless white van. like a delivery van or something. So
Molester van.
everyone was looking for U-Hauls and all these things. And the truth is, he never used anything like that. But when people were saying what cars were around, there's just a lot of them. So you said, oh, we think it might be a white van. But the simplicity of that call out to the public was very powerful. Then it became, he's in a white van.
Yeah.
If you're not seeing a white van, you're not seeing him. Right. And so I remember driving around and we would be marking white vans. Like everyone was doing it. So it's a perfect example of what you mentioned, Scotty. It's like you get one thing that you think is a fact, but it's really just an assessment, right? Or something like that. And it takes on this life and then it becomes a fact in people's minds. And it was an Oldsmobile or something like that,
especially when it comes from authority, right? Like,
right.
Okay, authorities say, look out for a white van. Right. Now you got your key assumption.
Exactly. So when you look at work or a workforce, like redesign or strategy, and how many things do we take as fact without saying, how do we know that? Right. Or is that true? Or is the data that we use? Who built the data that we use? We did.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Right. So it's like all of our assumptions and like brain debris is built into all of our numbers. We have to acknowledge that.
So how do you go from doing, again, like that type of work at BCG to doing workforce planning, to doing workforce redesign, to doing task-based work? I mean, all this stuff is really hot right now. I heard you talk about it a few years ago. Wasn't hot at the time you were talking about it, but it was very prescient now for this moment. First of all, how are you so early? But again, just take where you're going to go with that.
Sure.
I'd just like to learn about it.
Yeah. So part of what was my let's say expertise at the agency was analyzing leaders, right? Like what makes them tick, things like that in general terms. So when I got into the business world at BCG and then at Nestle, I was able to understand that the unique skills that I had was understanding a group of people, whether it be a military, a terrorist organization, a legislature, something like that. And then saying it could be a workforce and being like, what makes them tick? What are their motivations? How does their motivations and their actual actions differ? And then figure out ways to, it's a different like end goal, right? But to motivate people, to like make them a better workforce, to figure out what actually makes them tick. And I'm like, that sort of sounds like HR. It's a silly, in hindsight, it sounds silly, but like understanding a group of people, it's not psychology. It's not like IO psych necessarily. It's more about really taking a deep dive into who are the people who work for us? What do they do? What do they want? What bums them out? What engages them? What are we doing that's making their job harder? What are the unintended consequences of what we're doing? Et cetera, et cetera. So by the time I left BCG, I'm like, I think it's HR for me. Right. So when I went to Nestle and went to HR and did people analytics for them and workforce planning, by that time, what I did was fundamentally different than what any other people analytics team or the strategic workforce planning was so new at that point. We didn't really even have that name. What I was doing was quite different because it was that perspective of I'm not just going to produce more data or produce forecasts. But the big aha moment at the clinic was the first place I worked that straight up does not have enough people in its workforce. Healthcare does not have enough humans to do what it needs. The workforce is shrinking. The demand is going up. It's never going to come down. So that was when I said to myself, we have to rethink this. And I think I have the agency to thank for that, because I'm like, I'm not just going to repeat what I've been doing if it's not answering the right question. It's an assumption that this will be fixed by finding more people. Not true. There are no more people. I can find evidence for that. So that's sort of when role redesign, became my focus. Does that make sense?
How does everyone's AI crazy right now? It's going to change the world. Perhaps an assumption, all this sort of thing.
Right.
But I mean, like, there's a million companies offering their own solutions. There's big, small, and what's an organization to do? Like, is as far as how it changes the workforce, what sort of skills are needed. You have any thoughts on this?
Sure. Lots.
Yeah.
But I think keeping with the thread of what we were talking about, people jump to really big conclusions about AI based on very little data or evidence. So AI is going to eliminate a job. We don't know that. AI is going to change tasks, right? Individual tasks, right? Like if you use ChatGPT, you use Gemini or something, it doesn't change what you do. It changes how you do it in certain ways. So I think these really big, if you guys are on LinkedIn, you guys are reading all the all the intelligentsia right now saying, I love it. I mentioned this to you, Cole, like consulting is dead. Excel is dead. RIP, this industry, RIP PowerPoint, RIP whatever. And it's like, it's a little bit of clickbait, I think, but if it's also like, let's take that it's changing some tasks and take it to the nth degree. And there's like this magic in between that someone's in charge of, supposedly, right?
Steel underwear, question mark, profit.
Right. Investor, maybe you, like it's a little silly to me because I think the idea really is that AI, generative AI especially, is going to revolutionize tasks, certain tasks across different industries in different ways. It's not going to eliminate a job. There might be some jobs where it changes so many of the tasks that job has to fundamentally change. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's still about, what are you doing all day? How could you leverage things better? How could you speed things up, make, have more oomph to your work? But those are tasks. That's why I think it's not a question of which tech should I buy. Should I get Gemini or ChatGPT? Do I need this or that? Because it's not a technology strategy, right? I think it's workforce strategy. Mm-hmm. Because the real unlock is, I need to understand this job really well. Take any job, project manager, right? Everybody has them. How do I understand a project manager's day, week, well enough that we can then take some of this analysis and say, oh, this task, and this task, which, by the way, also overlaps with those tasks in 5 other roles in our organization, to get a sense of what's the ROI of that technology, right? What are the implications? What are the unintended consequences? Then and only then do you look at tech, right? We're doing everything backwards, or not everything, but I think that's because we have the vendors coming to us, say, do I have the solution for you? And then we're sort of like, yes or no, but we haven't done the work necessarily of saying, how could we maximize that in an organization? Is it automating the right tasks? There are tasks in healthcare that you do not want to automate because it's not what the customer wants. It's not what the patient wants. That exists everywhere in different contexts. So I think it's more of flipping. The AI discussion is it's the horse before the cart, right? Or the cart before the horse. I don't remember. But it's flipping that to say, listen, workforce strategists, people analytics strategists, human resource, human capital strategists, this is your Super Bowl, right? This is your not your pandemic, but this is your opportunity to shine, right? Do not just defer this to IT or to your chief digital people or whatever. They're your partner, but they know the tech. They don't know the people and the tasks. We need to stand on a soapbox a little bit and say, wait, we want to produce the map that drives AI and automation strategy.
Well, let me ask you about that. Who knows the task best? Is it the incumbent? Is it the manager? Is it a workforce design team? Is it, obviously it's not IT? Like who understands it best, and how do you go about redesigning it?
That's a great question, because I think the traditional, because role redesign is not new. It's not like, a novel idea even. It's like we've been trying to make jobs better since the beginning of jobs, and sort of looking at what they do. But I think we've hit some cognitive biases in the way we do it, because mostly we ask the employee, what do you do? And if you ask someone to tell HR or ask corporate what you do, the information you get is going to be detailed, but it's going to have some stuff built in there that is not ideal information, right? If somebody asks me what I do, I'm going to say that I do a zillion things, right? That's just a human reaction, right? So it's important to involve the workers, but we've been asking the workers to redesign their own jobs. And I don't believe that is necessarily possible because I don't think people do reinvent their own jobs. They have good ideas, they innovate on certain things, but it's really hard for a human to take a blank slate, blue sky approach to something that they do all day, every day for years at a time. Because they do it the way they were trained to do it, the way they learned, the way they're good at. You can't ask somebody, right? You can't ask somebody to forget all those things and then say, give me your new job. No, because the new job might not involve them, right? And that's really scary for anybody. So I think it's a combination of three things. And none of this has to be slow. It has to be methodical. I think you take outside information, right? Whether that's government databases or in some industries, a job is pretty codified, like regulated, what it does and when. Or you go to academic institutions, what is this job supposed to be doing? What can it legally do? Stuff like that. You use that as a starting point, and then you get with the subject matter experts, but you do not just fly it over to them and say, please, like edit this Excel document and all those things. I think that's how I was doing it, in past jobs. But I think it's more of guiding them through the process and maybe even walking with them in their shoes for a bit, starting with, here's what the Department of Labor thinks you do all day, every day. Tell me what else you do that I'm missing. Show me. But then and I'll give an example where you need some human involvement is when you do a shift with that person. You want to call it like doing a Gemba visit, like the Toyota phrase, like walking in their shoes, going to where the work happens. You'll notice that they do things that they're not conscious of, right? They're just going through their day. A great example is interruptions, right? If you have a job, I went golfing with a buddy yesterday, and he works in construction, and he got 4 phone calls while we were playing, right? He said, like, man, construction, this is just what it is. And I'm like, that's a task, right? You don't put it in your performance review or whatever, or your, hourly whatever, but that has to be captured somehow. How much of your time is being interrupted? What is interrupting it? All those things, because I want to attack those things also. And maybe that's another role's task that I can help with. So data to start, subject matter expertise, but then also a workforce strategist, someone who gets this sort of like a really clean brain, like a really sort of like like an interested amateur, right? To say, I noticed that, you didn't eat lunch today. Why? Something like that. I think that's sort of the flow that I would suggest.
That makes perfect sense. Especially someone in their role, they typically don't have that broader purview of what's going to be happening a year from now, right? To say like, here's how we need to change.
Right. Absolutely. And also you could see people 2 cubes away from each other who do their jobs completely differently.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, it's standardization is a huge missed opportunity, but it's not like, hey, Cole, Scotty does this better, now do it Scotty's way. It's more of like, Cole probably does some things more efficiently, Scotty does some things. I want to know those things and then be like, hey, you guys, we can come together here and create something really, really good, and then sort of make it our goal to spread that out. But you have to go to find those things that doesn't exist on paper.
I mean, like, you also bring up something that I'm seeing less and less appetite for people to actually talk to people. It's really wild. Like, we are an applied field. We need to be out in the field observing workers, seeing what they do. Because like you say, like, they will just gloss over things that are just natural to them.
Yeah.
And not even bring them up. It's not even a task anymore at that point.
Yeah, it's like, can we just get a CCTV to monitor everything and then put a machine learning algorithm on top of that and build a classifier to try to say what people are doing? Or we could just ask them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's cool tech these days that's emerging. If someone spends all their day on a computer, there is monitoring software, and not in like a punitive way, but like keystroke time. Like if you're always in a certain system, like, it could anonymize it. And, I've seen that, and that's cool. But it brings me a whole bunch of questions when I see that I think there's still assumptions built into those things of like, it doesn't give you the full answer. So it has to be an intelligent blend of those things. But Scotty, you're totally right. We have an aversion to looking somebody in the eyes these
Oh my
days.
God.
And it's not even a workforce thing, but I've led teams for a long time now. And when someone says this person isn't giving me what I want, they're being difficult, I would always ask, what pictures do they have on their desk? And they'd be like, I don't know. Like, well, go find out. You know what I mean?
It's really critical because and you touched on this slightly, but as we go into like a further sort of like AI future, I think those social, I've hammered this before on the pod, but those social relationships are going to become the most valuable thing because they cannot be replicated in the AI. And you're still going to need to coordinate with folks. You still need to like trust people, look in the eye, this sort of thing.
If we focus so much on what AI can do for us and we adopt that as our sort of mission, that could be useful to bring a whole bunch of AI into the workforce. But let's consider the opposite, which would be, what are the things that AI can't do? In my mind, there are 3 uniquely human skills. It's empathy, creativity, and like problem solving, right? Like something breaks. How do I fix it? What if we as workforce planners said the AI is good, let the AI be the AI. We're going to double down on the stuff that makes us uniquely human. So as we're building these programs, as we're building our future workforces, what we as humans are empathetic, creative, and engaged to attacking problems, right? I think that I'm agreeing with you, Scotty. It's more about if we adopt the persona of the technology we're trying to implement, that's going to go really poorly and will probably have some huge dire consequences.
Somehow we need to figure out how to like prank an AI. Like what's the equivalent of putting peanuts into the AI cubicle, right?
Right. That's the type of thing that like ends with the Terminator movies or something like that. That's, I don't know. That's a scary future.
Scott, you want to do some confusion matrix?
Confusion matrix. All right.
Oh
boy. The confusion matrix.
I gotta put on my glasses. I'm getting older. It happens. All right, AJ. As always, if Cole likes your answers, he will make you a social media tile that you can share with your friends, family. Put it on the CIA website. Why not? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, before we begin, like, what's the most accurate CIA TV show?
Oh, I love this
question. Or movie.
Yeah, I love this question. There's a TV show. It's my favorite, actually, TV show of all time. It was 2 seasons on Amazon, Amazon Prime. It was called Patriot. And it's not very well known. And it's a satire. It's sort of like a dark comedy. But what it gets so right is the emotional toll, the psychological toll that being an intelligence officer takes on someone. And the general thing is there's this guy, and he's what would be called a NOC, a non-official cover officer, and he is also like a folk singer and guitar player, and he can't help producing music based on what he's working on. So he's in all these cafes and he's just writing these songs about the Iranians building new centrifuges and things like that. And it's like, but you also see his mental stability deteriorate over time. And it sounds odd to say it's a comedy. It's a dark comedy, but
it sounds like Barry on HBO.
It's very like Barry. I love it. I recommend it to everyone. It's 2 seasons. You can still find it on Amazon. But to me, it's not so much like, would this person call that person? Is that how they would say this?
Yeah.
But it's more of like the deeper intellectual toll and the emotional toll of it. It gets so right. I did see a show recently. Was it Paramount or Hulu? It was just called The Agency, by the way. So of course I loved that, with Michael Fassbender. And it was, some of the stuff is like, there are little bits that are ludicrous. Like Richard Gere would always refer to JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command. That's JSOC. Like no one says JSOC. So like stuff like that, people, it bugs me. But that's a
Noob,
pretty good show
yeah.
too, I think.
I gotta say,
even I know that, and I'm a normie.
Right. JS, he did it over and over again. I'm like,
Yeah.
So fake. I love that. Like when there's like something like on TV, like if you're watching Jeopardy and like they're getting all these like French artists and this sort of stuff,
right.
but they can't get like the simple baseball question. You're like, oh, these people are idiots, right? You know?
Totally. Oh, three minor things that are in every spy movie and are always wrong. Car chases. Right? If you're being
James
being
Bond
followed,
isn't real?
Right. If you're being followed, you don't like just pull away, right? Like there's no car chases. Cell phones inside intelligence buildings. Like never, ever, 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 ever.
Really?
You should leave them at home, actually. Oh, and what was the third one I was going to say? Oh, everybody has a gun. Like nobody has a gun. Like it's in intelligence. Like why would you do that? That's a good way to go.
Is that where they all learn karate?
You learn to not put yourself in dumb situations, right? Like alone, unarmed, and unafraid. That's one of the unofficial mottos.
Alone, unarmed, and unafraid. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So what do you do in a car chase situation? Like someone's tailing you. Like I know you like take a circuitous route around the city and finally wind up at your hotel. Or
if someone's following you, it's what make yourself boring. Why would you follow me? I'm just going to the grocery store.
That's funny. Yeah, you were saying the thing about car chase. I'm thinking, you're right, because how many car chases do we see on the news? Like, there's not that many.
No, it's and they're like always in LA, always
time.
in California.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, it's all these movies they'll like completely shoot up like some European city, like destroy half of Amsterdam. Like that. When does that? That's not a good look.
Right, like land your car on a boat actively full of tourists.
Right. That is not under the radar.
All right, well, we'll go through some of these. These are, I don't know, random questions, whatever. And we'll see. We're getting late in time, but that's okay. Are you a feet on the coffee table guy or not?
Yes. Yeah, I'll put my feet up on anything.
Oh, yeah. I love this. Ditto. Cole? Do you even have a coffee table? Do you even have a coffee table?
Like some coffee tables, it feels disrespectful, and others, it's like it would be a shame not to.
Right.
So I don't know.
If I'm in somebody else's house, maybe not. But
yeah, walk right in.
Right.
Yeah.
The worst is when someone has like a coffee table that's like too low or too high. It's like, come on, get your shit together. Get your shit together. Are you a car wreck gawker? You gawk at those car wrecks.
Rubbernecker.
Yeah.
I consciously try not to be, because I've seen, and I think I've even read something at some point about how many more accidents are caused on the other side of the road. So this happened to me 2 days ago in Cleveland on the highway. There was a big wreck, and I'll do a little peek, but I'm not a rubberneck. I was also an EMT, a volunteer EMT for a while. So I've seen plenty of them to like not be so fascinated. But yeah, I actually get really irritated when people are clearly not paying attention. And, when you're on a highway doing 70 and they're like looking in the wrong direction.
Jeez, EMT, CIA, this guy's seeing shit.
Yeah.
I'm going from the left lane. I'm going from the left lane all the way to the right lane if I see a wreck coming up, because I'm like, all these people, they're going to get in an accident. I'm just going to get away from it.
Totally.
Well, you're going to go like directly to the accident? Like,
no, I'm going like
really good view?
So if you're going the other direction, the left lane is going to be the closest to the accident. So I'm going to the right lane to get away from all the people who are going to the left lane to try to see the accident.
That's the way to do it. That's it. That's the move. I'm going to do that. I never thought of that, but now I'm going to do that.
Yeah. I live in downtown Seattle, and like there's news crews like all over down here, and I'll sit there. I'll put like a little picnic. I'll see what they got going on.
All right.
Are you a fedora guy? Can you wear a fedora?
At the beach.
Ooh,
I can like pull off a straw fedora. When I went to New Orleans for my sister's birthday a couple years ago.
I'm listening.
And like, right. And I bought a straw fedora while I was down there, because like there's these older gentlemen who just like pull it off. But like outside of that context, like if I walk down the street in suburban Cleveland, no. No.
There's definitely a look. Like otherwise you're like Indiana Jones, like rolling around, right?
There's a guy in my neighborhood that wears one, but he wears it literally every day. And I'm like, good for you. It's like, it's become your thing. That's great. I just, It's not going to be my thing, so I'm not going to try it.
Let's wrap it up with okay, you're at a party, an outing, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're having a good time, and then someone pulls out a board game. Are you in or out?
I'm out. I'm out because I also know my level of competitiveness.
Oh, know thyself. Okay.
And if there's competitiveness and a party that I've been having a good time at, right, then I'm gonna be a little assertive. And I don't care if it's, what, like whatever game it is, like, yeah, I'm gonna win, right? So, friendships will be tested. So usually I'm like, although if a board game, no, but like ping pong, foosball, pool, I would do that. Darts. But
those are different. Those are different, right? They're meant to be.
Right. If it's a strategy game or something like that, I'm coming guns a blazing, and I stop having fun at that point because now I have a job.
I don't know if I know this about Cole. Like, what do you think, Cole? I don't know if Cole has time for a board game.
Don't have time for many board games. I will say, if there actually is time and it is happening, I love a good board game as long as nobody's cheating. Or
okay.
And there's gradients of cheating too, because some people will cheat because they don't know the rules, and some people will cheat because they act like they don't know the rules, and those people drive me up a wall because I'm like, I know you're cheating, I know you know what you're doing, and you're doing it on purpose.
Right.
Like any of that kind of stuff drives me crazy. But otherwise, like if I lose, I lose, like no big deal. But it's like if there's any cheating involved, I'm gonna lose my shit.
I think this.
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
There was also games where you need a partner to perform well.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
My wife has this it's like catchphrase. It's like the little device that you click and you have to get someone to say the word without saying the word. And I get so frustrated when the people on my team don't do a good job. You know what I mean? It's like
you need to do some strategic planning here.
Like, right, exactly. Like we need to prep. Like, how do you not know Bastille Day or something like that? Like my expectations of people are out of whack. You're like, I'm your daughter.
I think that this is a perfect example. Like what they call the horseshoe effect, where like we both arrive at the same answer. Like I would be like out on anyone brings out a board game, I'm out. But not because I'm overly competitive, because like I'm non-competitive.
Yeah.
Like I don't give a fuck if I win. And then you got like someone like rattling off the rules for 20 minutes. And it's like, I don't got time for this shit. I'm just having fun drinking. Right. And then you got someone that's like way competitive. Like I don't want any part of this. And then like now Cole's accusing me of cheating because I don't give a shit.
Right. Sitting around and drinking is enough of an activity for me.
Yeah. Like why are we going to gamify it?
Right.
Scott's not respecting the integrity of the game. Now I'm getting mad.
Try harder so I can beat you.
This is Settlers of Catan. Have some respect.
This is the game of life.
Right,
go to the Candy Mountain.
Have I passed the, what is this?
Yeah, good question. We never really asked. We don't really follow up. What do you think, Cole?
I mean, I think you're going to get a social media title regardless of what happens. So there you go.
Oh.
Nailed it.
But
all that effort.
Yeah. Well, you want to do some nerdery, Scott?
Let's do it.
The nerdery. All right. We got to start with one of yours because I realized that I sent you guys the wrong link to the article, so I'm going to have to explain it to you all, but I need to get set up for that. Which one do you want to start with?
Shit. Well, I got to goof myself here. Well, we'll go to why great ideas die on manager's desk and how to save them.
Let's do that.
I read that one. I read it.
Fantastic. Well, the problem comes that I got really suckered. We've already covered this article, but in the article format, the JAP format, and this was the MIT slogan I was suckered in. And I thought, like, oh, man, like I can't wait to read this article. As soon as I started reading, it's like, we've already done this and covered it. But the gist of it is that, employees will bring good ideas to their managers, and there's a negative sort of bias, there you go, towards actually accepting them. But this is also moderated by a couple different things. So like managers that have more diverse networks are more receptive to sort of novel ideas. There's also an employee factor. So if the employee is seen as more central or more knowledgeable, more popular overall, then the idea is more likely to be accepted by the manager. And obviously, if it's perceived to have some sort of practical benefit by the manager, obviously it's more likely to be accepted as well. Pretty cool study. They did 3 different sort of studies, 2 field and 1 experimental. But overall, yeah, it's kind of a chicken or egg problem. You can bring a good idea to a manager, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have the social capacity to know it's a good idea.
Right. My initial thought about it was, I think sometimes what employees do a varying degree of good job in is demonstrating the relevance of the idea to the actual mission of whatever that team is or the organization. Yeah. You know, I've heard a lot of good ideas where I'm like, that's a great idea for somebody to do, but that's not close enough to our portfolio for me to be able to take action on it, or for me to even tell you yes or no or give you feedback. It's like, that's really a financial like thing or something like that. So I think, you know, sometimes it's like you just haven't done a good enough job of saying how that makes our work better, as opposed to like work in general. And I use this phrase sometimes where it's, I sort of forgot the phrasing, but some people have a wish versus a plan. And it's like, sometimes I think people bring their managers wishes, which is like, hey, this just needs to happen and then everything will be fine. And I'd be like, okay, that's a wish. How do you turn it into a plan? Be like, well, they need to do, and I need this person, that person. I'm like, that's still a wish. What can you do? Or what can we do to actually make this happen? I think people, especially junior folks, need to disaggregate those things. Like wishes, managers can't grant wishes. They can approve plans, right? Or like tactics. I think that's a big step.
Very stoic of you, Marcus Aurelius. Do what you can.
Right. It is, right? Don't give me an idea that I'm not able to do anything about.
Yeah, I heard the comedian Jimmy Carr say something the other day. I was like, I didn't expect it from a comedian because it was very insightful. It stuck with me, and it was something like, if you see a problem and you feel like it's your job to fix it, that's called ambition. And if you feel like it's somebody else's job to fix it, that's called entitlement. And I was like, whoa,
that is heavy. That is heavy.
That's deep stuff. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to remember that. So.
But like in a large corporate environment, we can sort of get that learned helplessness sometimes.
Easily.
Like, there's got to be somebody that can fix this. But like, what if that person's you? You know, and it's like that.
Why not you as well? Why not you?
Why not you? Like, you know, I heard a great quote the other day. Was it Margaret Mead? She said something like, don't underestimate the ability of a small group of committed people to creating a big change. She said, because in fact, that's the only thing that ever has.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how every revolution starts there
with a small group of committed people. So if the idea is good enough, let's be those committed people. But what an idea falling on a manager's desk should not be a wish list, you know, or something that is not stuff for other people to do. That's entitlement. I like that a lot, actually.
Well, that was kind of my perspective on this article. Is I looked at it like, if you work in corporate America long enough, you see enough good ideas get shot down. The thing I always look for is like, who's the person who made this radical idea? Because every so often you'll see like a radical idea will actually get adopted. And like, what did this person do? Like, I need to study this person. Because clearly they are markedly different than most people.
Right.
And the other thing that's funny about this one, Scott, is I actually found an article the other day. I've had a hypothesis for a while that there are such a thing called Scott articles.
Okay.
And you found it with this one because you found the same one in a different outlet. I did the same thing the other day. I found one and I was like, oh my God, Scott's going to love this article. And then I realized it was an article in another outlet that covered an article that we had talked about. I was like, there are Scott articles.
There's a universe.
I wish we would have like divided this up a long time ago, the sort of articles that we cover. AJ, back to what you were saying, like, I think as far as like a wish list, I think that a lot of the AI hype right now is kind of like a wish list. Like, once again, we're going to input AI. Something happens. We win.
Right.
Entitlement. We do AI. Entitlement. We win.
That actually brings up a really, really good point, because you hear the AI like doomerism stuff, and it'd be like, no one's going to have jobs. And it's like, there's a big, again, gradient in between everyone having jobs and no one having jobs. And it's like, there's going to be a long period of time where let's say under the assumption that AI really does eliminate all work, right?
Right.
Like, which I think is very debatable. But let's say for
Right.
the sake of argument, it does. There's still going to be a period of time where it is eliminating those tasks that AJ mentioned, systematically over time. And it's not going to be a light switch moment where it just goes from nothing to everything. And then you have to ask yourself the question, okay, again, under this assumption, if it were going to eliminate all jobs, how long would it actually take for that systematic elimination to occur? Right. And if you look at history as a guide, 5 to 10 years would be extremely, extremely quick, right? Yeah. And so, like, I just I think a lot of this stuff is overblown just using logic to look at this, at this situation.
You could look at like the historical example, like let's say electricity, like the invention of electricity, and you'd have to compress the time horizons because this is much different. But like from it being discovered, was it Edison, the light bulb? From it being discovered to being in all of our homes did not happen overnight. A whole bunch of work had to go into it. Not the same amount of time that AI will take, but this is a period of work, not a period of, like you said, flipping a switch where it's just going to be there one day. I feel strongly that the work is ours to lead. A leadership vacuum from workforce strategists is going to take longer to bring AI to the forefront and will not be the future that we want. You know what I mean? Because this is still, I still believe that AI is a workforce tool more than it is, just a technology tool that can be like pixie dust sprinkled out, over everything.
And what kind of jobs are created on the back end as well?
Yeah.
Like, sure, some are going to go away, but like, I mean, I don't know, 4 years ago, none of us heard about, oh my God, prompt engineering.
Right.
That wasn't a thing.
Right.
There's going to be new things that pop up along the way.
Totally. Absolutely. And we're going to need humans to get smart on them really fast.
Yeah.
Right. Like this is not a one-time change. And that's why I believe so much in like role redesign, because people say, all right, once I've redesigned my jobs, then I'm done. Right. Like, are you kidding? You think we're going to be done with this? You think that technology is going to have a sort of a timeout in 10 years? We're going to be redesigning jobs, not in waves, but constantly. Right. So this is our opportunity to get good at it, because it's going to be, I think, an industry, like an entire profession, given the pace of change.
Yeah, that's what I've been telling people, analytics folks. This is the new wave you need to ride. Go do this stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe this is somewhat related to that. Let me pull up our next nerdery article. And again, I apologize for sending you the wrong link here. But a few weeks ago, we covered a research article about how LLMs can simulate human psychology, and so you could just do full like academic studies on LLMs and not need any human participants. And so what I try to do is be pretty balanced on here. And so I found the other side of the argument, which is some researchers came in after that article and they even cite it and say large language models do not simulate human psychology. And they go through and they talk about these two big papers that had made those claims, and they explain kind of why it's not the case. But in essence, they're saying for novel stimuli, we cannot expect LLMs to really respond like human beings would. We would want to train the models first on that stimuli, but otherwise, why would we be doing the research in the first place? So basically, what they're saying, I'm summarizing a lot here, but I know you guys didn't get a chance to read it. Basically, what they found is if you're trying to ask something that we've asked human beings about, 100 times. Then LLMs can probably do a pretty decent job simulating human behavior. But presumably, science is trying to ask about covering new ground. And anytime any kind of novelty is brought into the equation, and they go into reasons why that there's biases in the LLMs, kind of to AJ's point from earlier, like everybody's got a bias. LLMs have their own biases. And there's biases in these LLMs that are kind of unhuman-like in nature. And that's the reason why when presented with novel stimuli, they're unable to mimic human responses and human behavior. So I don't know. What do you guys think about this? I know you didn't have a chance to read it, but I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I sort of think to myself, if you're doing any sort of academic study and the basis of your work can be answered by an LLM, then the novelty is sort of going away. But I think ChatGPT and all these, generative AI is very good at telling us things that we already know, right? Or is known in the ether, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it is just the internet, and the internet is good. Like, it has all sorts of documentation and literature and all sorts of good stuff. It also has some not great stuff, and it can be trained, but it's trained by humans. So if it's, I think the next step is not so much what can an LLM do that will summarize and focus for me things that is already known, but what can it do to challenge me, right? To sort of come up with things that are not understood yet. I think that's what I'd like to see more of is how can LLMs help us invent new stuff. I really sort of bristle at the idea of doing any work, analytics, research, whatever, that is going to reaffirm things we already know. And that's that, because I think that's like wasteful and exhausting. But if it's like, hey, this is what I think, can the LLM challenge me? Can it point out, inconsistencies or something like that? Because I think that's just the more exciting part. But I also agree with the counterpoint that they referenced, which is what you're looking at is the internet from at least a year ago. And if you're testing something that's completely new, it's you still have to do new research. You still have to talk to humans. I agree.
Well, what you just described there was the promise of AI that's able to derive patterns because it has such a broad swath of the internet, or this training model at its source. I read that 40 to 60% of these models are trained on Reddit data. So I mean, if that's your training source, yeah, it's going to be biased. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit garbage in, garbage out.
Totally.
I love what you said, Cole. It kind of threw me for a loop. But unhuman bias. AJ, add this to the list of biases. Unhuman bias.
Right. It's like if we go back to our story of the white vans. If you ask an LLM, that thing took on a life of its own.
Yeah.
The LLM is pulling from that. It's just all of our built-in, deeply built-in biases is what it's pulling from. So can it that next step is, can it be like not completely sentient, but like can it say, hey human, you're good at this, you're good at this part, I the computer am good at this part, let me challenge you a little bit. I think that's the promise, and I haven't seen that yet because I still think what even we're trying to do with role redesign, like you can use a chat GPT or something to say, what are these tasks, whatever, but it's not going to give you novel ideas. I think that's the challenge, is how do you know enough to be dangerous and then sit in a corner and close your eyes and start to be creative. I think that's still, creativity is a uniquely human skill.
Well, I think they lack inductive reasoning. I think they're decent at deductive. Like, to use the Washington, D.C. shooter, the next time a shooter comes along, I bet you an LLM would recommend using deduction. They're probably in a white van. And like inductively, that makes no sense why any shooter would be in white vans. But deductively, you're like, we got a data point over here. It says white vans. Presumably all shooters use white vans. Therefore, we should look for a white van. That makes sense to an LLM, but a human being would say, that's stupid. Why would we do that?
Right, because it's probably a white van because most cars are white vans, right? That's the reasoning it's using. But like an intelligence officer would immediately say, you're pulling from another assumption and it's making your analysis wrong and you don't see it.
The output from these models are biased as well. So it's like it tells you, like, a lot of kids use it as like a therapy tool, and essentially like, oh, you're right, they're wrong, like you're doing everything right. That's not good. That's not good.
No. Kids are like killing themselves now because of that stuff. It's wild.
I'm not sure it's a tool that we expose kids to at this point.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Anyway, that got dark. You want to talk about the last one, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought this was an interesting one because we I wanted to learn more about narcissism, like in different forms of it. So, what drives us to go green? The roles of narcissism, virtue signaling, and social exclusion. So, essentially, they're understanding the pro-environmental values and how it relates to both grandiose narcissism and vulnerable narcissism. So, grandiose narcissism symbolizes inflated self-value, arrogance, boldness. These people tend to be have a superiority complex, manipulative, overconfidence, this sort of thing. Vulnerable narcissists tend to be like introverted, entitled, and emotionally unstable rather. But they had like surveys, and it's British folks. Take with that what you will, but the results overall say grandiose narcissists tend to support environmental causes, and this comes from the desire to be superior, special, and leading important causes. Make themselves look good, this sort of thing. But the really interesting is the vulnerable narcissists. Those tend to be like more introverted. They tend to be less likely to they tend to less genuinely care about the environmental movement, but are more likely to publicly display and talk about these environmental behaviors. So, despite the fact not caring, they talk more about all the virtue signaling associated with it.
I mean, that's like there's the narcissism part of all that, the different parts of narcissism, and there's the environmental part of it. It's like an interesting confluence. There's a lot there, but what it makes me think of is how often we need or want leaders to be heroes in some way, and how there's like a cult of personality that they're encouraged to develop, and some people are good at that and some people are really toxic at that, right? and we've all worked with both, but I think there's like, especially these days, how many of our new class of tech billionaires have a cult of personality where it's like, I don't care what they're working on, but if so and so is doing it, it's always a young white guy, right? Like if he's doing it, it's gonna work because he's so brilliant. And I have problems with that because that doesn't scientifically make sense to me, right? How that, we put so much value in, like, there's the Elizabeth Holmes example. It's because I want to buy the person. I don't want to buy the idea or the evidence or something like that. So I think, especially in the entrepreneurial sense or in the, tech world, it's like, oh, I'm only investing if so-and-so is leading it. And I was reading at some point the idea of, if someone's exceptionally good at one thing, we as humans believe they'll be exceptionally good at other things.
Matthew effect. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not true. Right. And we've seen so much evidence for it. Those transferable skills are limited, right, in how they can apply. So I think that but the desire to be that hero, to be that sort of like, cult of personality, like sort of boxes people into narcissism. Like, I have to think of myself this way because I need other people to think of myself this way. And anything that attacks that, I need to be super sensitive to. And it's almost like the higher you go up in any organization, it needs to be less and less about you, but we have that totally backwards. It's more and more about you as a person.
The higher you go in the organization, the more likely you are to put on a t-shirt over a button up, and a hard hat.
Right. And
I'm
then
we
put so much, and then you go to a Coldplay concert and your company's done. You know what I mean? Like, it's high risk.
Yeah. The thing I was thinking about with this one is what AJ, you were saying earlier, the Margaret Mead quote about, it just takes a few, really committed, small group of committed people to, start a revolution or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, if you're starting a revolution, you just need to get a few narcissists on board, and then you're good to go, because they're going to bring everybody along with them.
Yeah. And they'll call it vision, but it might be a heavy dose of narcissism as well.
The difference between like someone that's insane in a movement is like 1,000 people, right?
Yeah.
You just need a group.
Yeah. Right. But it also devalues the work of the smaller teams. Like, did Steve Jobs invent the iPhone? Yes, but did he make it work? No. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of, there's the vision, but any company that gets to that point is a whole bunch of awesome execution and problem solving. And it's like, oh, when this person leaves, the company is, the stock price drops and everything. Like, I think we overdo that a little bit.
It's the same with like Edison and the muckers, right? They tried a gazillion examples of the light bulb before they figured out the right filament and vacuum combination to get it going. And Edison just like sold the shit,
right?
Put the team together,
right?
Yeah. Hey, there's some value in that,
I mean, you need structure. You need structure. Totally.
Absolutely. Well, before we wrap up, AJ, I think you had a kind of a work-related announcement you wanted to make. I wanted to tell you congratulations, but I want to steal your thunder. What you got going on?
So some exciting stuff happening for me. The need to execute on the stuff that we're talking about with bringing on technology into the workforce and getting down into our tasks and thinking about the future of what work can be is so strong, and there hasn't been a lot of stuff on the market that's able to do that. So it's very early, but I and some others will be starting up something pretty exciting that I think will allow people who are interested in the idea of, can I redesign my workforce? Can I bring more AI and technology into my roles in the right place and with good ROI? There will be something that will allow them to do that in a very rigorous way, in a very insightful way. So that's something that we're looking to build. So I can't say much more about it now. It's a little bit of a dangle, a little bit of a teaser. But for folks interested in, this type of work, if you have a workforce that you're just realizing, I need more people than I can possibly get, or, I need skills that I can't derive from my workforce, or I'm not able to leverage the exciting things with AI and technology because I don't know where to start, or because everyone and their brother is trying to sell me something and I don't know if it'll be the answer. Mm-hmm. There could be a solution coming soon that will help with that. So for folks interested, keep an eye on my LinkedIn. We'll be, hopefully making something public soon. But there's my fun announcement and a little bit of a teaser.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good luck in your ambiguous journey. Well, that was definitely different than I thought it was going to be. But congratulations nonetheless. Scott, any parting words for AJ before we wrap up?
AJ, this is fantastic. You can put a Chewbacca in my cube anytime you like.
Good.
Yeah.
Happy to.
Awesome. Well, you've been listening to Directionally Correct, a People Analytics podcast with Cole and Scott, and today's guest, AJ Herrmann. Thanks for joining us, AJ.
Thanks, guys. It was great.